Hi, and welcome to Alaska Pacific University's Career Services video series, APU Link and Learn. My name is Robin Brooks, and I'm happy to share this information to help you present the best possible CV and cover letter for your application. Let's get started. First off, what is a CV and how is it different from a resume? If you go online and look for a CV template, many websites will end up leading you to a resume template instead. But there are some important differences between these two documents. Curriculum vitae is a Latin phrase meaning course of life, and it's a detailed document that highlights your professional and academic history. In contrast, the word resume is French for summary. Like a resume, a CV will include your work experience and education, but it will expand to include achievements and awards, scholarships and grants, coursework, research projects, and any publications or presentations. It places a much heavier emphasis on your academic background. A resume should not be longer than 2 pages, but because a CV includes so much more detail, 2 to 3 pages is typical, and it's not unusual to be much longer. This visual helps explain the differences between CVs and resumes, not only in format, but in purpose as well. There are differences about when each document would be required, the focus of each, what's being demonstrated, and what is included. A resume is very tailored to a specific job application, while a CV is a much more comprehensive overview. Whether you're just starting to put your CV together, updating one, or completely revamping it, the first step is to gather your information. Start with your contact information and personal data, which can include a professional profile photo or headshot, and your LinkedIn or Handshake profile if those are up to date. Next, pull together your quantitative pieces, such as expected graduation dates, time frames for past jobs, relevant coursework, research projects and presentations, or certificate expirations. Finally, compile your qualitative pieces, such as your goals, skills, traits, and characteristics. All those things will help you compose a complete CV and then a complimentary cover letter. If you're actively applying for an internship, job, research position, or degree program, print out or have the position or program description handy. Read through it carefully and use a highlighter to mark sections in which you have experience, skills, or knowledge so that you can work on emphasizing them throughout your application. There is often someone whose job it is to vet applications, to weed out those who don't appear to be qualified, and to pass the qualified applications on to the hiring team or supervisor. Think about this as you're writing your CV. How can the way you word your CV stand out to that first reviewer and keep your application going? This is where tying your application documents to the description is key. As mentioned earlier, while a standard resume is 1 to 2 pages, a CV is easily 2 to 3 or longer. It's not unusual to find someone with 15 years of work experience and a 25-page CV. Someone with a more extensive work and research history who has come back to college or is completing another degree will certainly have more to include. A new graduate who went right from high school to college is not expected to have lots of publications or presentations, but there should be information about courses you completed, any research, observation and internship and volunteer experiences, and definitely the work done for your senior project. It's acceptable to have a CV that's 2 pages if that's the extent of your experience, and it's common to have a longer CV if you have lots to share. Anytime you accomplish something new, you should add it to your CV to keep it current, whether it's a new certificate, publication, or job. Because a CV is a longer document, the first half of the first page is going to set the tone and either allow that first reviewer to find what they need to see or not. Help them maximize the time spent on your application by making your CV clear and easy to read. This page shows things to think about related to text formatting. Keep some white space around the edges using normal margins or just slightly narrower if needed so it's not overcrowded. Each section caption should be in bold, maybe all caps, and each job title should be in bold. Consider starting with a template, but then do lots of editing to personalize it. A good CV should be pleasing to the eye, simple, clean, without lots of columns and clutter. Some industries are more visually creative than others. Usually that's found in applications for graphic design or digital media. A CV for a research position or in academia, however, should be primarily black and white and structured. A bar of color under your name or green bullet points is about as jazzed up as you want to get. There are many templates out there that allow you to infuse some creativity while maintaining a traditional format, but in a nutshell, keep it simple. We've talked about what a CV is and how to approach it, and now let's talk about actually writing one. The general structure of a CV includes a header with your name and contact information, including a phone number and email address. If you have a relevant website or professionally oriented social media account, such as a LinkedIn or Handshake profile, you should include that as well. This exact same header should be used on all of your application documents, such as your cover letter and list of references, as it makes you look organized and detail-oriented. After the header, you may add a statement of purpose or a research objective, which is a brief statement about what skills you have and the type of position you want. This is optional, but it's especially useful to help capture the reader's attention. A CV is most often used in academic settings. These include applying to graduate schools, research and grant applications, internships, and fellowships. In those situations, you'll list your education at the top following the statement if you chose to include it. Education should also be listed first if you're applying for an academic position, any kind of teaching role, or to a position where your coursework should be featured. For many other kinds of internships or jobs, you're more likely to use a resume, where your work and volunteer experience should come first, followed by education. You should also include any certificates or licenses you earned from another college, trade school, or education center. A CV will also include your high school education. This example shows the minimum of what your education section should include. You'll want to talk with someone in your industry about the preferred format. How you lay out your CV depends on your career path and what you're looking to do next. Reverse chronological is the standard and the most common, in which you list your most recent job or experience first and work your way backward. This is the default and is used across many industries, but as you're putting this together, be sure it's the best choice. An easy person to ask is your faculty advisor, or contact me and we can work together on finding a person who can offer that kind of review. When you list your experience, include context. In what town or city, state, or country did this job take place? Did you travel and work in multiple locations? What dates did you have that experience? 5 months, 5 years? Context is important. Even if all your experience was in one place, like Anchorage, you'll need to list Anchorage, Alaska next to everything, and the dates should be listed as month and year. As you can see from the example, there's a lot of quick context information in those first 2 lines. Many employers will discount your CV the second they see a spelling or grammar error. Have a friend or advisor take a peek and give you feedback. Little errors with verb tenses can hurt you in the eyes of hiring managers. As a rule, if something on your CV is in the past, use the past tense: managed, delivered, organized. And if you're still actively in the role, use the present tense: manage, deliver, organize. Edit out words like I or my. Instead of saying, I met with 15 clients daily, say, met with 15 clients daily. Using strong active verbs to start each bullet point is more descriptive and engaging. Bump up that example with something like, consulted with 15 clients daily. Similarly, be consistent with your punctuation, like either ending your bullet points with a period or not. Each job, position, or experience should have at least 2 to 4 bullet points to describe what you did. You'll provide the name of the organization with location, job title, and dates, and then provide a description in a concise manner. The bullet points should reflect ART, action, what did you do? Result, what was the impact or benefit you provided? Target, how is this relevant to the position to which you're applying? Bullet points are a quick way to provide a lot of information. Throughout the application process, it's important to be yourself, and this includes what you write in your application materials. A CV is a great place to show who you really are. Share your likes and interests, your personality, what makes you unique, and so on. Did you study abroad? Do you speak another language? Do you excel at using Excel? Don't leave these things out, as they could be what sets you apart and gets you that incredible fellowship. After all, these are real people considering your application, and they'd probably prefer to work with someone who's enjoyable and a good fit for the culture of their organization. It's wise to create a skills section to highlight these things, or you may have a cluster of experiences that can have a section of their own. First of all, congratulations on your achievements. Awards, achievements, or organizational memberships are very important in a CV. Some of the most common CV sections are contact information, academic history or education, professional experience, qualifications and skills, awards and honors, publications with full citations, professional associations, grants and fellowships, licenses or certificates, volunteer work or community engagement, and an optional section for hobbies and interests. For awards, start with the award name, followed by the year it was awarded, the organization that gave it to you, and some details about it, such as how often the award is given and how many people receive it. For publications, use correct citation format that includes authors, the date published, and so on. Presentations should include the title, date, and location. Professional associations, both past and present, should include the name of the organization, geographic location or chapter, and the dates of active membership. These are people who have your back. Your references should be positive relationships you have in your professional network. Always check in to be sure they're okay with being a reference for you, especially if it's been a while since you were in touch. Prepare anyone who agrees to be a reference for you by letting them know what types of positions you're applying for. Send them a copy of your CV so they have a refresher on your background, and you can send them direct links to the positions or programs you're applying to. Follow up with them to keep them updated about the status of your search, and certainly if you succeed, so they can celebrate with you. References should be listed on a separate page with the information shown. Always list one more than are requested in case the search committee has trouble reaching someone. And here's the bad news. What you're creating is a template that should be altered for each application. Save it as a Word document, and then each time you apply for a different job, save a new copy and tailor it. One idea is to maintain a master CV, which contains all of the sections I mentioned, along with lots of descriptive bullet points. Every once in a while, you can go in and update things so it's ready to be revised anytime. One way to help communicate that you are the perfect person for the research position or internship is to carefully read the description and list out key phrases. Pay attention to every word in the listing, as they're most likely written by the supervisor and lay out both expectations and what they're hoping for in a candidate. When you're composing your CV and cover letter, find ways to incorporate those words and phrases that you noticed right from the description into your documents. This definitely helps connect you to the reader. Things to change each time you apply to another position are your statement of purpose or objective, so it matches the job, your skills, so they line up with what's in the position description, accomplishments you describe under each job title. You could change the order of your bullet points or delete some or add some so they better match the job, any volunteerism or hobbies that complement the organization's mission. Regarding a headshot photo, while this should never be on a resume, it can be acceptable on a CV. One thing to keep in mind, though, is that many organizations want to reduce bias in their selection process, so sharing your photo at this stage may be a piece of unwanted information. If you're using a template that has this included, you could replace it with a logo of your initials or simply remove it. Let's move along to the second part of this workshop. A cover letter is a formal business letter that engages the employer in a few deeper stories and the personal convictions that show why you are the most qualified candidate for the position. It's one page, clearly, authentically written, usually with about 3 or 4 paragraphs. Every application requires a cover letter that's carefully customized to the position description, and it's likely to need several drafts. While incorporating standard features, use your creativity to make your message memorable. Like CVs and resumes, Cover letters are living documents that should be changed for every application. Create a basic document that includes most of what you would want to include that's relevant to your industry. When you apply for a job, just like a CV, save a copy and change the content to align with the job requirements. You can customize it by changing specific abilities or highlighting experience tailored to the listing's requirement and preferred skills. Avoid mentioning your lack of experience or unrelated experience. There are often transferable skills that you can highlight instead. Focus on the job description and never write or say that you're trying to get a foot in the door of their organization. The committee wants you to apply for this job, not for something else in their organization. If you want to use an acronym, spell it out the first time you use it to ensure everyone knows what it means. For example, in my background, Academic Programs International is API. It's a study abroad program. Others know it as Alaska Psychiatric Institute. Pretty different. Be more creative than overused phrases we've all heard before. For example, instead of saying you've always wanted this kind of job, describe the path that led you to this opportunity. And finally, don't just offer a summary of your CV when you can give them so much more. Offer the hiring committee a chance to envision and sense your skills through your storytelling. Since you're writing a letter, address the employer by name. Do not use "to whom it may concern." Employers are more impressed by applicants who go out of their way to research the hiring manager's name. Start by calling the HR department to find the name, as most HR departments are willing to share this. Taking the time to personalize the letter shows that you have initiative, which is usually a positive thing. And while your cover letter is a formal business letter, choose words that are in your normal vocabulary rather than trying to impress with unusual words. As much as possible, create a tone that's in alignment with that of someone you may have spoken to in an informational interview, someone who works at the organization, or mirrors the type of language used on the organization's website. State clearly the position to which you're applying, and let this be an opportunity for creative writing. Steps that may help captivate your readers. Reflect on your own very particular connection to this job and/or organization and your deepest motivations for applying. Play around with opening sentences that will draw in the reader and make you a memorable applicant. As you write the rest of your letter and discover the stories it will include, you can go back and revise that first sentence. Demonstrate you've done your research by including information about the organization as part of why you're applying, right in the first paragraph. As discussed earlier, use your name and contact information at the top of your cover letter in the same font style and size as your CV, the same header. This brings consistency to your application documents. As you get into the body of your letter, use explicit examples. Instead of stating, "I'm an educator," tell them a story. Here's an example. In addition to my teacher education program, I've had the opportunity to lead groups of adolescents in learning about our community and environment through Youth to Parks. While they grew in their understanding of the complexities that influence changes in our climate, I gained a deeper understanding of the perspective of today's youth and the impact a caring, listening adult can have on their lives. This example points back to something listed in the CV, but it paints more of a picture and expresses the learning that happened for the applicant during the experience. Think of the letter as your place to expand on some of the key bullet points in your CV, to talk about the intangible things that don't really fit into the format of a CV or a resume. And if you lack some work experience, but you have classroom experiences that match the skills they're looking for, highlight knowledge and work that you gained from your coursework. The cover letter is where employers are looking for strong written communication skills, so this is where you'll finally put all of your writing coursework to good use. Your letter should use a business-like format. After the header, date, address, and the person's name, your first paragraph explains why you're applying to this position with this organization. Provide a connection between the organization and your goals, whether it's a shared mission or if you know a person there who encouraged you to apply. The next 1 to 3 paragraphs give you a place to highlight some stories from your CV. Choose skills found in the position description and then share some short anecdotes about how you developed those. Talk about your motivation and show you understand what kind of candidate they're seeking, and absolutely demonstrate that the best candidate is you. In the last paragraph, include your gratitude and request for follow-up. It's short and sweet and wraps it up. Have several other people look at your cover letter and CV before you send them off. Avoid typing errors. Sometimes you can be too close to a document to see a small mistake, but someone else looking at your application will definitely find it. You just don't want that to be the employer. While you want to use word processing tools so you can tweak your documents, save them as PDFs before you submit them. This is because they're less likely to carry viruses, making others more likely to open them. They also play nicely with different operating systems. When you save your PDF, be sure things have formatted correctly. Check with the employer to verify if they want the documents separately or as one file. Then save them with a unique file name, usually including your name. Occasionally, a company will ask for hard copies, and for that, regular printer paper is fine, though some people like to use slightly heavier resume paper. Keep this simple to white or off-white. And it's always a good idea to bring several clean, neat copies to an interview. Thank you so much for taking the time to view this video. You're welcome to contact me with your questions, and together we can work on creating a CV and cover letter that you'll be proud to share as part of a graduate school application or with a prospective employer.